Welcome to another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Paul Delegro, your host, and my guest today is Karin Freeland. Now, Karin, you do a lot of things. So you're an author, you're a certified reinvention coach, and you're a podcaster too. We'll talk about that later on, but welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back. You know, this is the second time, and I still forgot my hat again.
Yeah. There you go. Well, you got to wear a hat. I think I may make that as a requirement going forward, that to be on the show, you have to wear a hat.
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun, I think. Yeah, you got me thinking about that. So, well, we had you on before, but that was for a different topic, right? Social selling, those are things you have some expertise in. But, you know, you just came out with your second book, and it's about confidence, right? And nice, congratulations. We'll plug the book, Grab Life by the Dream, by your dreams, right?
Yes, Grab Life by the Dreams.
How's it going so far?
So far, so good. I mean, these things are a marathon, not a sprint, right? So, I mean, would I have loved to sell 10,000 copies first week? Yeah, that would have been great. But the reality is, especially as a self-published author, it'll be a slow go. So
sure.
I'm excited. I had a great turnout to the launch event. I'm in Greenville now.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I can't complain.
Awesome. Well, I think the kind of the focus of the book is around, how to create unshakable confidence. And that's a subject that I think we're all familiar with because, as you know, in life, right, your confidence does this. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
I've had people say to me, man, you seem so confident. I'm like, hey, you don't know me very well. I mean, I've had my ups and downs. So whenever someone writes a book and I have them on the show, the first thing I always ask, why'd you write the book? What was the genesis of the book?
Sure. So most of this book is written for who I was 3-4 years ago, right? When I was asking the big questions in life, what is my purpose? What am I here for?
Right.
What do I really want to accomplish? And what legacy do I want to leave? And I think for COVID, a lot of people started asking similar questions. And so I think dreams come in all shapes and sizes. There's people who have dreams to climb the corporate ladder and get to the C-suite. And there's people who have dreams to go to a nonprofit and have this legacy, if you will. And then there's people who want to just do their own thing or go write a book or write a screenplay. And so my hope is that people who have stopped dreaming, who feel really stuck, are going to be able to read this book and have a game plan for getting back into that. But we know you can't achieve your dreams and go after things if you don't have the confidence to do it. So it's so important that we shape that as well.
Okay, cool. So what are some of the misconceptions about confidence? Because I mean, we could go 1,000 different angles. You got the real macho guys and bravado and all that. A lot of that's fake too, but let's get some definitions out there and misconceptions out there.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people assume that if you are an extrovert, you must be really confident. I'm an extrovert. You're probably an extrovert from what I've seen.
Yep.
We get energy from other people, but there's actually no scientific data to say that as an extrovert, you are more confident than an introvert. So that's the first misconception. It's not a personality trait. It's not necessarily something you're born with. There are some people who just naturally are, I wouldn't even say more confident, but they're more outgoing or they appear confident.
Sure. Right.
And a lot of people say, well, it must be a feeling if I feel confident, but you just did the roller coaster thing, right? So that's how feelings are too. Feelings come and go based on the thoughts we have about something. So we could be really confident in one area of our life, but then have negative thoughts about another area of our life and not be confident. So,
right. Yeah, it's a great point because you get your personal life, your professional life. Things may be going well professionally, but then you have a rocky relationship with your significant other, wife, girlfriend, whatever. So yeah, it's a great point. But it all intertwines. I think it all affects you too.
Sure. And you're one person, right? You're not a corporate person from 8 to 5 or 8 to 10, depending on how much you're working, right? Former workaholic here. And then someone different when you go home, like you're one person. So we got to start treating people humanly and as if they are that one whole person. And I'll add one more misconception, and that's that if you're confident, there's no fear. And that's just simply not the case, right? Yes, I can confidently get on here, but of course, in the back of your mind, there's always a little bit of like, ooh, what if I don't say the right things? Or I hope this goes well, right?
Yeah. No, so that's a great point, by the way. Even though I think you'll be my guest number 82. Well, I don't know, do I count you as one or two guys? I guess two. So, But no, I always get, even preparing for today, I'm looking at the notes we talked about, and I get a little nervous. There's,
Sure.
call that fear or whatever you want to call it. But I think that sometimes fear can be good, though.
Oh, 100%. And I just got done recording an episode of my own show yesterday with Dr. Rebecca Heiss. She wrote a book called Instinct, and she's done a lot of research on this. And the way she phrased it was, fear is actually the barometer for how much you care. I thought that was
Right.
so interesting. We don't think about it that way.
That's a great point. Yes, that's a great point. And I think for me, I'll speak personally, fear makes me prepare.
Yes.
Like if you're going into a meeting, you want to have all your ducks in a row. You have all the information you have, and you get that pit, and especially if it's a big meeting. I'm in sales, and you're trying to close a deal, and you're making sure. And you're right. It makes you, at least for me, it makes me prepare harder.
Yeah. So it's allowing that fear to fuel you and to harness it in a way that works for you, not against you, right? Because what some people will do when they start to have this fear, they want to apply for a job, let's say, right? Or go for a larger role in their organization, and they get the fear, and then they go, oh, well, I'm going to just not do this then because this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so really making sure that people understand, no, this is normal. Fear's a part of the process.
Yeah.
Just don't let it hold you back. Do it scared. Do it anyway.
Yeah, that's funny. You just made me think of my kids when you said that, because I tried to talk to my kids about, hey, it's okay to be nervous for a ball game, basketball game, and I said to them, hey, I used to get nervous for games, and they looked at, and my one daughter said to me, no way, you didn't get nervous, because they think we're bulletproof or invincible. I said, no. I go, the way you're feeling is natural, because sometimes you feel alone, right? You think I'm the only one feeling this way, but that's not true. And the flip side of that is what I've always tried to tell them is, don't let the fear cripple you.
Right.
Just know that the way you're feeling is natural, and it's how you handle that fear, I guess, is the key. Am I kind of heading in the right direction on this one?
1,000%. And, you mentioned a minute ago new definitions for confidence. And so inside Grab Life by the Dreams, I actually give a definition that I like to use with my clients and that I live by for confidence. So I would love to just read this to you and explain a little bit why it's so powerful.
Karin, you can do whatever you want. This is your show.
Oh, thank you. I have no problem with that. No, just kidding. Okay, so it says, confidence is a deep trust in your own capabilities and a desire to try something new or different. Understanding that even if things don't work out as intended, you'll have learned something in the process. And I think the reason this definition is so freeing for people is it doesn't say anything about being right and always knowing all the answers, right? There's goodbye perfectionist. We don't need that. That's not helpful for us, right? Like, it's really just knowing that, hey, I have capabilities. I have figured out hard things before, and I can figure this one out too. And it's not a failure if it doesn't go right. It just means that I learned something. I grew. I have new skills now, and I'll know how to approach this better in the future. Yeah.
So another thing, and you got me as you're saying this. I'm thinking of things. One of the things in life, I think, in general, and I kind of relate this to real life situations for me is, forcing yourself to get out of a comfort zone. Like I think in your book you talk about maybe going for a job that you really don't have all the qualifications for, but no one else does either, right? So
yes, and
go for that job.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That's kind of what I was saying is just getting out of your comfort zone. Some people can't do that though.
Well,
like I've learned to get out of my comfort zone.
And I think that's the thing. Confidence is a skill, right? Is a muscle. You know, we can build this muscle just like we can go to the gym and pump weights. You can practice becoming more confident. And the way you do that is by facing your fears, right? Jumping in the deep end of the pool and exploring your fears, not running away from them.
Right. Agreed. One of the biggest fears people have is public speaking.
Yeah.
And, doing what we're doing right now. And I have to admit, the podcast has really helped me. I was always decent in front of a room, but I never felt super comfortable doing it. Now I'm way better at it because the podcast has got me over that fear. And I'm like, wow, why was I so worried all those years? And that's the one thing I'm trying to tell my kids as they're earlier in their careers. Mm-hmm. I know it may be uncomfortable for you to do presentations in front of people, but it's a skill that you really, really will utilize and help propel your career if you can do it effectively.
Yeah, and I love how you said that. Like, it's repetition, right? By you speaking every single day, multiple times a week, you have no choice but to get better, right? It's just natural.
Yes.
That's going to improve. So if there's something that someone wants to do, right, we don't always have to wait until we are perfect at it, but we can start building that muscle day by day.
Nice. So I know in your book you probably have, I haven't read it yet, I apologize. I like to read a book before, but I didn't get a chance to read yours. I think you have a number of tips.
Yeah, there are.
Right? Come with things.
Yeah, 6 tips of how you can become more confident. And I can't give you all 6 because you have to go read the book. But
No, you have to buy the book. I get it.
But one of my favorite is own it. And when I say own it, I'm inviting people to start owning their current capabilities and stop comparing themselves to everyone else around them. I mean, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And it's so easy to do that and to look at other people and go, well, I'm not going to go for that job because I don't have what they have. But in reality, we all have strengths. No one can do what you do, how you do it. That is your superpower, right?
Unique to you. It's unique to you, right?
Exactly. And so I remember when I was applying for a chief of staff job several years ago, and they came to me and said, Karin, we want you to go for this role. And I kept thinking, like, you got the wrong woman, okay? That is not me.
Yep.
And the reason I felt that way, partly because I was looking at all the people who had that role before me. They were all men, and they all had really strong financial acumen. And that was not a skill I'd had an opportunity to really develop up to that point. However, when I started interviewing and exploring the role further, what I realized is they didn't need another man who had financial acumen. They had enough people in the team running the organization who had those skills. What they actually needed was a marketer and somebody who could storytell, who could take the vision of the leadership team, tie it down to the front lines, and make it accessible to everybody. And then someone who could take the concerns and the things happening on the front lines and bring it back up to the leadership team. And so that was me. I actually fit the bill perfectly. But if I didn't start focusing on the skills and capabilities that I had, and I was just looking at everybody else, that was going to continue to hold me back. And so I hope that's freeing
that's a great
for people.
That's a great story, yeah. So do you see much of a difference between sexes, men and women? I mean, are there inherent differences? And we are wired differently. I know the media may say we're all the same, but we're not.
No, we're definitely different. And that's a good thing. That's okay. We want to celebrate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
couldn't agree with you more.
There are some stats, from HP. Hewlett-Packard did an internal report, and it said that women wait to apply for a job until they have 100% of the qualifications, whereas men will go for a role when they have only 60% of the qualifications. And so with this stat, I don't know that there's inherently something different in the genders, but maybe women need to be encouraged more. They need to be invited to apply for those roles. I mean, going back to the chief of staff one, if they had not sought me out, I would never have considered myself for that role. I just wouldn't have thought of it.
How long did you do that job for?
It was 11 months, yeah. And then the president retired, so I was out of a job again. But it was fine. Everything happens for a reason. And the president that I worked for, was the one that helped me land my first editor. So I truly believe the only reason I was even chief of staff in the first place was so I could meet him and get my editor.
So how do you handle, and I know we all do this, how do you handle things like the self-talk, the self-doubt all the time, right? How do you get someone to get over that?
For sure. And I think there's different techniques for different people. And that's the first thing to understand, especially, when you're working with a coach, it's helpful to have a coach that isn't going to cookie cutter things for you, because not everyone thinks the same way. Not everyone needs the same things. But so much of our self-talk is negative, and we have this sort of self-inflicted chipping away at our confidence, where everyone else is, might even be cheerleading us on, and we don't even believe it, right? We're like discounting these compliments or good things that are happening around us, and we're, that was my team. That happened because of my team. Or, oh, that was just a fluke. Instead of really owning it and saying, no, like this was because of me and the work I did and the organization and all of those things. So I try to train my clients to be their own biggest cheerleader, right? And to think about how they would talk to the 4-year-old version of themselves, right? Like if you saw 4-year-old you, and let's say something didn't go right on a project, like how would you talk to that 4-year-old? Would you beat them up and tell them that they were the stupidest thing ever and that they, are never going to succeed and they should just quit now?
You're an absolute failure.
Right. You would never do that. And yet that's literally how so many of us are talking to ourselves in our heads. And I think just having that little reminder, like just put a picture of yourself on your office desk of when you were 4 or 5, whatever, pick an age. And remind yourself, like, oh no, that's not how I would talk to her. Let me do better for myself. And another great tool, of course, is affirmations. Having a series of statements. I am capable. My work here is valued. Whatever that is that's going to help motivate you and be nourishing for yourself. Come up with some affirmations because they really can be a powerful tool to rewire your brain.
Yeah, great. By the way, how did you get into this confidence thing? I mean, that's not something you went to college for. What got you into that?
Definitely not. I went to college for dance. I think I saw so much of my confidence chipped away when I was in the corporate world, and even starting my business as a life coach. There were a lot of confidence issues, looking at other coaches and seeing how much money they were making or how much seeming success they were having. And so then I found this confidence certification online. And I was like, let me go look into being a confidence coach as well and really understand the mechanics behind all of this.
Yeah, I think it's much needed. So I've had anxiety coaches on, now I've had a confidence coach. And I think everyone struggles with that. Everyone has anxieties. Everyone has fears. And to say you don't is a lie. I don't know anyone that is 100%. I'd like to meet that person. If that person was 100% confident, no anxiety, I'd be like, if you could bottle that, you'd be a gajillionaire.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it exists. And so I think it's something that we're chasing that just simply isn't available for us. It's not really there.
But I think the big thing you've really got me thinking about this morning is that, when you have fear and anxiety, if you let that cripple you, where you just revert to do nothing, because nothing, if you do nothing, you're going to get nothing, right? So you got to, I think recognizing it is important, right? Like, hey, I'm feeling this way. It's natural. What's my next move going to be?
Yeah. And having somebody to work with you that can coach you through that and can support you is really helpful also, whether that's me or a career coach or someone else. I mean, get that accountability partner, explain to them your goals and what you're trying to achieve and help them walk you through it.
So how about, I'm looking at some of the notes we discussed about the show.
Sure.
And how about this fake it till you make it strategy? Talk about that a little bit.
There's a lot of controversy around this, and I didn't realize this was such a controversial thing. I actually Googled the other day, and I said, worst career advice you've ever been given. This was the Google thing. And it said, fake it till you make it. And I go, well, that's interesting, because I literally put in my book, the power of fake it till you make it. And here's why I believe in this. I do not think that this is bad advice. And when I talk about fake it till you make it, what I'm doing is inviting you to create this character who is the most successful and confident version of you. And then you can ask yourself, okay, what would the most successful and confident version of me do in this situation? And I always go back to the chief of staff job because it was just one of those jobs that completely took me out of my comfort zone and catapulted me into a whole different group of people and level in my career. And I remember thinking, I cannot go into the CMO's office and just knock on the door and walk in and be like, I need this report for the president by this time. Where's it at? I'm like, I can't. He doesn't work for me. I don't have that authority. It was so uncomfortable. And I had to use this approach and go, well, wait a second. What would a chief of staff do in this situation? What would someone else who had that confidence do? I know what they'd do. They'd walk right in his office and ask him for it. And so I started doing that. And as I was acting as if I was already that person who could do it, suddenly I became that person. I was that person. Right. And I wasn't faking it anymore. So I do think that this is incredibly helpful for people. Some of the biggest names in the business, like they're doing this. They use this approach, and I know because they've shared it.
I believe they are. So what's the counter argument to that, though? You said you Googled it.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people feel like faking it is just, it's not really you. And so you're sort of brushing it to the side. You're not really addressing the root cause of confidence. And I don't totally disagree. I mean, if you're not confident because you don't have a skill, then yeah, like make a plan and go get that skill, right? Like don't just be like, well, I don't have that skill, so I'm not going to worry about it.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think by saying fake it till you make it means you got to be a phony.
Right.
I think that's probably a misconception. Like you're being fake as a person, as a human being. You're being yourself. It's just trying to overcome that fear.
Yeah. This new level of yourself, right? Like you're just up leveling and maybe you don't fully feel like you're at that level yet, but that's okay, right? You're going to act as if you were.
Nice. So again, I've known you since before you started all this authoring stuff and all that. So you've come a long way. Like you said, you were a social selling coach. That's how I first met you. You wrote your first book. Now you've wrote your second book. Now you've got a podcast too. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. What got you going on that?
You know, I've had a podcast on my heart for a long time, but it was one of those things that I was like, okay, does anybody want to hear me? Like, do I have something to offer? There's so many people in the podcasting game, all those fears and, confidence issues. And then finally I said, wait a second, this is something I'm passionate about. I want to have a bigger impact. Yeah. I want to reach more women. And I think the way to do that is by expanding my voice and having a podcast. So there's Rock Your Reinvention. It was born.
Well, so now that circles right back around to the confidence piece of it. I know how I felt the first time I hit the publish button. I was like, oh man, is anyone going to listen? What are people going to think? Then all of a sudden I started getting the feedback and mostly positive. I've got a few people that critiqued me a little bit, which is fine. But once I got over the first few episodes, I was kind of like, this wasn't so bad. It was, again, it's a good example of fake it till you make it type of things. I definitely got out of my comfort zone doing this. But now I'm not Joe Rogan yet, but I do have 80 episodes.
That's the key word.
80 episodes out. Yeah. So some statistics, I don't know how accurate they are anymore, but at one time there was over 2 million podcasts, and this should make you feel good. There's over 2 million podcasts out there. I think the statistic I heard was 80% of all podcasts don't make it past episode 3.
Wow. I'm on episode 4.
Yeah, so you're in the top 20%. And I think the number of downloads, if you can average 100 downloads per episode, you're in the top 10%.
Wow.
So it just shows you and I know people that have quit after a couple of episodes because they think it's easy. I'm like, it's not. I mean, like people I work with, I don't complain about how much work it takes to do this thing because you got to look for guests, you got to interview them beforehand, you got to go over the talk track, you got to prepare. Yeah, and again, then there's the whole post-production stuff of it. So I don't complain to anyone about it, but it is work, and I think people when they get into it, if they want to do it right, it takes time. It's not that it's that hard; it just takes time.
Yeah.
And people underestimate. I think people underestimate that, but you're already kind of doing that with your book and. You've been on podcasts, so you kind of know what it entails.
Yeah, and I love podcasting. It's fun, so there is that ability to bring a bit of joy to it and just have conversations and meet interesting new people.
Yeah. So, and again, I think I know the kind of the theme of what you're trying to do. Like you said, you want to get, have an impact on people's lives, especially women. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit different. I'm in technology sales. And although I love technology, it can be a little dry at times.
Sure.
So I made the decision early on that I don't want to do just technology. I want to have people like you on. I had gangsters on. I've had all the anxiety coaches. I've had my nephew, who was the predator in the movie Prey.
That's so cool.
That Hulu movie that came out last year. I had him on. So just have all the different, because I think people want to hear interesting things.
For sure. And I mean, everything we talked about today 100% applies to the technology world. I mean, most of my career was in tech and telecommunications, so a little bit in energy and pharma. So, I mean, yeah, it was the world that I lived for so many years.
And you seem much happier, by the way. I mean, you're finally doing what you want to do.
Well, I don't hate to admit it, but it wasn't for me anymore. And I think sometimes we go through these seasons of life where there was a time when corporate served me really well and it provided a wonderful life for my family and I. And then I was done. And when I was done, was I ever done?
You were done, yeah.
Like, it was just, this isn't going to work anymore.
I think we're raised the old traditional way. You've got to get an education. You've got to get a job, that 9-to-5 job. You've got to get benefits. You've got to get a 401k. And I think that's changing. I think COVID really changed that.
1,000%. Yeah.
Because now people are, all these influences out there, and technology has really changed it because now folks can get their message out there and do different things without having a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, and I wish if I could just plea with any organization leaders that are listening today, stop making them working moms come back to the office. I mean, I appreciate it because my business has been booming over the last few months. They're all coming to me, Karin, make me an exit plan. I got to get out. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. Once you've had that taste of working from home, being required,
especially as a mother, my youngest daughter just took a job. She graduated, from college, got a master's in electrical engineering. She just moved to Denver, so she's not living near us anymore. I'm very upset about that. But they want them to be in the office 3 days a week. Yep. So she works from home 2 days and in the office 3, and it's a flexible 3-2. Like, in other words, it's not a hard, fast rule that you're going to get fired if you work 2 days. But I think, and they want more of an office culture, but they say they want them to have the benefit of working from home, that way you don't have to get dressed up in the morning and all that good stuff. And so I think the hybrid environment is going to be the future. I think I could be wrong on this, but and I think it's a much healthier environment. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, even some of the women that I'm talking to, they're like, even hybrid's not working for me now. Like, once you've had that flexibility and you don't have to waste that time behind the windshield. And I mean, there's so many things. It's like, now it's like, well, I missed all my son's games, or I missed all my daughter's recitals, or I couldn't go to all these things. We don't think about that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So it's funny. I was reading an article recently. This guy, he has like a 3-year-old daughter, and he's got to go back to the office now. So he's trying to explain to a 3-year-old, I've got to go to work. I've got to go to the, and she's like, what do you mean? Yeah. You work here. This is your job. So it's like, even the little kids are like, they're not understanding this either, but I don't know. I'm a people person. There's some aspects of the office culture that I like.
Sure.
I don't know. Call me old school, but there's nothing like shaking a hand, seeing someone, going grabbing a cup of coffee with someone. And that's a thing that I fear for the younger generation. You and I'm older than you, so I can say this for myself. I've done all the office stuff. I'm at a point in my life, I don't need the social interaction as much as I did 20, 30 years ago. But I think these young kids need, not just everybody, needs some sort of social interaction. And sitting in your apartment or house all day can be lonesome.
Oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Trust me, I do it all the time. And my husband will come home on a Friday night and he just wants to hang out because he's been out of the house all day. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I can't be in here anymore. I gotta go out. We gotta see people.
Yeah, we gotta go dinner. Yeah. No, I don't know what the answer is, Karin, to be honest with you. I know I have my opinions on it, and
I mean, I think it's flexibility. I think it's choice and flexibility for people, because you're right, we are all different. And what you need and what I need and what somebody else needs might all be different. It might be different. And I know that's hard for organizations to manage, but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way.
I do worry about this for the younger generation. I do, because I think it can be debilitating if you don't grow as a human being, socially interacting with someone. So I don't know. But again, no one's asking me my opinion, Karin. So we'll let the powers that be figure that out. And I know I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning, so it's not something I'm too worried about at this point. But
sure.
So, well, hey, Karin, we'll finish up on that note. But I did want to mention, you've got the new book. If someone wanted to get the book, name of it, and where can they go get it?
Yes, it's Grab Life by the Dreams. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever books are sold digitally. You can also go to karinfreeland.com/dreams. Karin with an I, Karin, FREELAND.com/dreams. And you can learn all about the book and place the order from there.
Awesome. And what's the name of your podcast? And where can they find that too?
Rock Your Reinvention. It's up on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Buzzsprout, whatever you use. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about coaching and you want support, you can reach out to me, KarinFreeland.com, and then click on the Life Coaching tab and book a call.
Awesome. Karin, loved having you on the show. You're always so full of energy. I love it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for Business Brains and the Bottom Line. Until next time.